Hi everybody, my name is Jay. I'm one of the expert PTE academic teachers here at E2 Language. So it looks like you're taking your PTE test, which is a good idea. I like this test. I think it's a good test. I think it's a fun test to of all the tests that you can prepare for, I think PTE is actually quite fun because the activities are quite short and there's a lot of variety. There's no big, scary sort of thing like IELTS writing task 2, for example. They seem to be much shorter and more enjoyable. Cool. Anyway, in this live class, this masterclass, what we're going to do is look deeply at the speaking section, which seems to be problematic for a lot of candidates, okay? While IELTS is challenging for writing, PTE seems to be challenging for speaking. So let's see what we can do to maximize our understanding of all of the different tasks here, and in turn, maximize our scores on test day, because that's what it's all about. There are, in total, 5 PTE speaking tasks. They are read aloud, repeat sentence, describe image, retell lecture, and answer short question. Okay? There are no other tasks that contribute points to your speaking aside from these speaking tasks. However, bear in mind that some of these tasks contribute points to other skills. For example, read aloud contributes points, yes, to your speaking, but also to your reading score. Repeat sentence contributes points to your speaking, but also to your listening score. Retell lecture is the same, it's speaking and listening. An answer short question is an odd one. It just seems to contribute points to your vocabulary score and not actually to any skill specific, okay? But it seems that your vocab score will generate points in your skills. Let's take a closer look at read aloud. This is what it looks like on test day. Pretty straightforward. Here are the instructions. You'll get 30 or 40 seconds to rehearse. Okay, so basically what you have to do is read that paragraph aloud, but you don't just do that straight away. You get to read it through once first before the recorder starts to record you. Then when the recording device opens, that is, it begins to record you, you need to speak as clearly and as naturally as you possibly can before then clicking next and going to the next one. There are a few facts you should understand about this particular task. That is, on test day, you're going to get 6 or 7 read aloud paragraphs. It has, as I mentioned before, integrated scoring, so it contributes points to reading and speaking. You're scored on 3 factors, okay? You're scored on content, pronunciation, and oral fluency. Let's break these down and look at them in detail because it's important that you understand how you're scored, so that on test day, or certainly while you're preparing for test day, you're thinking about the scoring itself, because that is what it's all about. Content means that when you read that paragraph, you don't add any words that don't exist there. You don't skip any words that do exist there. And you're not replacing any words. That is, you're not saying another word. If it might say quality, for example, and you say quantity, that's considered a replacement, and so you will lose a point there. So let me just go back. I think that's pretty clear, right? That's pretty clear. Don't add, don't skip, don't replace. Just read what's in front of you, okay? Cool. Next one is pronunciation. You are scored, because this is a speaking test, on pronunciation. Pronunciation is really quite complicated, okay? Let's have a closer look at what pronunciation actually means. Pronunciation entails various sub-skills. That is, it contains various ingredients. Okay, so your pronunciation consists of things like consonants, the way you say consonant sounds, consonant clusters, vowel sounds, and word stress. So let's take a closer look at consonants. Consonants are sounds in English. These are the English consonants. You might have different ones in your first language. Consonants are sounds that you make where a part of your mouth is involved. That is, your tongue, your teeth, your lips, your throat is actually impeding the air in some way to make a sound. For example, the sound B. But what part of my mouth am I using? I'm certainly using my lips here. B, ball, boy, those sorts of words there. Or k, k. I'm sort of blocking it with my lower throat here, saying k, k, my tongue. Then you got d, d, d. What I'm doing here is my tongue is hitting the roof of my mouth, d, d, d. So these are consonant sounds, right? Then you've got what's called consonant clusters. That is more than one consonant coming together. And I bet you've never thought about this. This is where sounds like bl, bl as in blackbird, br as in brain, ch as in chair, cl as in clamber, cr as in crackle. Okay, so these are also aspects of your pronunciation that are scored. Let's look at some more. Dr is in drag, fl is in flake, fr is in fraction, gl is in glamorous, and grat is in graduate. Can you please read these 5 words for me? Go. So depending on your first language, this will be easy or this will be difficult. For example, if your first language is Korean or Japanese, your languages don't in fact have consonant clusters. They're just not something that you actually have. You will always put a consonant, vowel, consonant. In English, we have 2 consonants together. So that's why if you hear a Japanese speaker say the word drag, for example, it'll sound more like durag, durag. And so they're naturally putting a vowel between the d and the r sound, which is incorrect in English. It has to be dr, drag, drag, or fraction, fraction, for example. Let's look at these ones. Plain, precipitate, scalpel, shadow, and skate park. Please say those words. So they are the consonant clusters pl, pr, sk, sh, and sk. Let's look at some more. Slam, smash, snail, spaghetti, and let's say stable. Please say those words. So we've got sl, sm, sn, sp, and st. Crazy stuff, right? Pretty crazy. Like, if you, okay, let's say you're an alien, right? And you come to Earth and you've got a completely different language. You don't make sounds for your language. Let's say aliens use sign language. Okay, they have little tentacles and they do these waving of tentacles, right? So they land on Earth and they hear these humans saying things like splurt, splurt, squirt, splurt, spurt, trur, saying these weird sounds. And all of a sudden these sounds are generating meaning in the other human's head, which is very strange. So when you strip away the meaning, you think, what are we doing here? It's very, very weird. Anyway, let's go back to this one. So we've got sw, as in swallow. Then we've got a particularly challenging one, and this is challenging for a number of different languages who do not have a th sound. A th sound is made with your tongue hitting your front teeth here. Th. A lot of people who don't have this sound, let's say Italians, for example, do not have the th sound. So they will say f, like an F, like thank you, or something, f, but it's not f, it's th with the tongue, as in than, thank, thor, that, the, there, them, then, there, and these. Every time you do that, your tongue should just be poking out a little bit. Then you got tr as in tractor, twt as in tweak, and what as in wheeze. Please say all of these sound, all the yellow sounds. Say all the yellow sounds, please. And just while we're doing this, please note down any consonant clusters that you personally find challenging, okay? Because you will need to work on them, okay? You will, before test day, for example, if you are having a hard time saying th, you're going to have to practice saying it, because if you go in and say f, something, or thank you, this is a problem. Okay, next one is r, scr, shr, sv, and split, as in rap, scratch, shrewd, spherical, and splendor. And the last one is sprit, squirt, strut, and thruh, as in spreadsheet, squadron, strawberry, and thrice. So weird. So weird. If you have any questions, by the way, please note them down, and we'll do a little, just after this pronunciation section, we'll do a little Q&A. Okay, so you've got consonants like d, p, m. Then you've got consonant clusters like r, spr, skl. Skl one? I don't know. Then you've got vowels. So vowels are sounds that we make where the air, the oxygen, is not impeded or stopped by your tongue or your teeth or your mouth or your lips or your roof of your mouth or your throat, as in a, e, o, a, short vowels. Long vowels, A, E, I, O, U. Okay. Then you've got a different type of vowel where you've got like combined vowels, like vowel clusters, if you like, as in pay, boy, why. So here with pay, you've got A, E, A, E. And boy is in oi, boy, boy. And Y is in IE, and no is in OU. And how is in ow. And here is in E. You know what's weird is like language, when you slow down language, right? It's like I went to the dermatologist recently, and then because I wanted to get my skin checked for skin cancers, and luckily I've got nothing, which is good. But you know, what's really weird is when you focus in on something that you've never really looked at closely before. Like this dermatologist put a magnifying glass on my skin and was looking at all my little freckles and things. And the skin is just so weird when you look at it so closely. And it's the same thing with language. When you look at something really closely, like the word boy, and you slow it down, and you think, okay, what is that? What is that sound that we just take for granted? It's b and then oi. It's very weird. And then you got ears and here, and air is in bear. So a lot of languages don't have combined vowels, okay? Or if they do, they have very few of them. Or maybe you have combined vowels that we don't have in English, for example. So if I spoke your language, it would be really difficult for me. Okay, last one is word stress is also, well, could be considered part of pronunciation. So what's word stress? First of all, you will find that your first language is either it is a stress-based language like English. So Thai, German, Russian, Danish, Swedish, Norwegian, Dutch, Eastern European languages, Portuguese and Farsi, Persian have they're stress-based languages. That is, a particular syllable in a word has more emphasis than others. So you'll have a word like syllable, syllable, and the emphasis is on the first one, okay? Or what's the one? Oh, yeah, a good example that I heard the other day was generic. The word generic, generic. Okay, the emphasis on the n sound, generic. But the person speaking was from South India, and they said generic, generic, with even emphasis, generic, generic, generic versus generic. And for a split second, my mind did not know what that word was because the emphasis was placed incorrectly. Right? So maybe that person came from a syllable-based languages like I think it was a South Asian or Dravidian language. So if you look at this paragraph here, varnish, provide, protective, violin, vibrations, impulses, absorbs, quality, produces, properties, varnish, chemical, composition, thickness, penetration, important, factors. This is correct word stress. Okay, let's now read this paragraph here in 25 seconds, being conscious of consonants, consonant clusters, vowels, and word stress. Okay, how did you go? Just type in, for my interest, please type into the chat your first language and which consonant clusters you had trouble with, or if you did. So if you speak Mandarin, for example, and you had problems with spr or something like that, just for my, or which part of pronunciation do you have trouble with here? So Portuguese, Ludmilla struggles with the th sound, yeah. So you might be tempted to say something instead of something. Sophia is Vietnamese, Vietnamese speaker, and it's the sound, as in wood or good. So that is a vowel sound. Is it a short vowel, long vowel? Short vowel. Ashok, Marathi. Oh, nice. Ashok spent 5 years in Australia, so feeling pretty good. So Pranil's Marathi as well, short U and long U. Diana Afrikaans is thra. Interesting. Filipino, Carlo is Filipino, and the bra. Interesting. Yes, Filipinos have the Filipinos struggle with the p and b difference. I remember we had a guy working here who was a Filipino, and he would talk about doing a sales pitch, right? A sales pitch. But he would make that little bit of an error, and it sounded like a b sound. So it was sales, and it was kind of awkward. Anyway, keep that in mind. P and b. Okay, interesting. Someone struggling with the tr consonant cluster. Cool. All right. Let me just go to your questions very quickly and see what questions you have. Is this live? Asked Richard. Yes, this is live. Projector, retail lecture is difficult. We'll get to that. Which is tougher, IELTS or PTE? I think IELTS is tougher for writing. PTE is tougher for speaking. Shay, what's your thoughts around wearing a mask in the PTE? I don't know. I don't know. It's a good question. Chetan, what accent gets a better score? American or Indian, Asian accent? Good examples that you get. Okay. So this is a good question around accents. So the PTE speaking algorithm was created with 120 different language groups. Okay. So your language, whatever it is, was probably included in that sample when they trained the machine that does the speaking. Nevertheless, accent is okay. Everybody has an accent. Ludmilla would have a Portuguese accent. Sophia would have a Vietnamese accent, probably. Even if it's just, some people have a thick accent. Some people have a very thin accent. I have an accent. I have an Australian accent. The problem is when your accent is thick, too thick, and it actually is impeding the sounds. So for example, when we talked about Carlo's Filipino accent and the difficulty with the p-b distinction. So if Carlo talked about going swimming at the beach, that would be problematic because then the computer, as well as a human brain, would say, swim at the beach or swim at the beach, for example. So just think about the influence or the interference of your first language on English, okay? You have to try to minimize that. Okay, now we've talked about content, we've talked about pronunciation, and we're just about to talk about oral fluency. And these 3 scoring criteria apply to all of the speaking tasks, not just read aloud. We're going to see these speaking criteria also in describe image, retail lecture, not so much repeat sentence, but certainly in those 2 there. So let's talk about oral fluency and what that means now. So fluency is not just the tempo at which you speak. A lot of people think that fluency just means you speak quickly, but it's not that. Fluency encompasses sentence stress, connected speech, pausing, overall rhythm of your speech, as well as hesitations, if you're hesitating too much, as well as the use of fillers, that is it's also a part of hesitating when you're hesitating too much. So let's focus on sentence stress first. So you can see the single sentence here. Varnish does more than just provide a protective sheen to a violin. You can see some of the words are underlined. So I don't know if you're aware of this, but sometimes when we emphasize a word, it changes the meaning slightly. Varnish does more than just provide a protective sheen to a violin. Varnish does more than just provide a protective sheen to a violin. Varnish does more than just provide a protective sheen to a violin. Varnish does more than just provide a protective sheen to a violin. Okay, you can sort of almost shift the meaning slightly. It's the exact same sentence, exact same grammar and vocabulary. So there's that. Then this is an important one, connected speech. So when you listen to a language that you don't understand, let's say you fly to, where are you flying to? Let's say where's the guy? There's a guy in the cafe next door and he's from Uzbekistan, right? Let's say you go to Uzbekistan and you're listening to Uzbek. I think that's the name of the language. So you've never heard it before. When you listen to it, you'll notice that there's very little pausing between words, and often it's like blah, 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 blah. And the reason is for that is there's this phenomenon that happens in language, which is connected speech. We do not speak like this when we speak naturally. What we do is we chunk or group words together, so the gaps between them vanish. Like varnish does more than just, provider, protective sheen, to a. We'd never say to a violin, to a violin. It influences the vibrations and impulses and even here, and impulses. That's not correct. That d sound actually disappears. We say and impulses. So what's happening is we're gluing words together and some parts of the words disappear altogether. Cool. So that's connected speech. Then you've got pausing. So varnish does more than just provide a protective sheen to a violin. Pause. It influences the vibrations and impulses that the wood absorbs, and therefore the quality of sound the instrument produces. The properties of the varnish, its chemical composition, thickness, and penetration into the wood are all important factors. Pausing is critical. And then you've got overall rhythm. That is, you're speaking with a nice intonations and ups and downs and overall meaning. So let's do this again. Please speak with lots of meaning and rhythm and all of these aspects. Okay. All right, so we just talked about the 3 parameters of scoring: content, pronunciation, oral fluency. And we could see that, in fact, there's a lot of complexity involved there. It's okay. You don't need to memorize any of that. You just need to just be conscious of it. Just raise your awareness of it. And if anything, you want to try to find your personal weaknesses or errors there and try to remediate them or fix them, or just improve them. Okay, cool. Now let's talk about the method for read aloud. So the method is to combine everything that we've just done into a proper reading. But if you want to just simplify this down, boil it down into one precise little statement, that is, read with meaning, okay? When you get that paragraph and you read it to understand it, and then speak with meaning, okay? You want to convey your understanding in the way that you speak. Because if you do that, naturally, you're going to pause correctly, you're going to connect speech, you're going to vary the intonation with meaning, etc. Cool, let's do it. I'm going to disappear, give you 35 seconds to prepare, and then 35 seconds to read. Okay, how did you go reading this aloud? Did you have any problems? Was it all good? Okay, let's... Richard got my joke before. Okay. Ashok, here's a question. Jay, suppose there is a noun in the first sentence of the paragraph which has been introduced using article the before the noun, like the elephant, for example. Sometimes I see nouns in the first sentence having the before them, like the example on the screen, say varnish, does more than provide protective sheen. Why influences the vibrations? Why the here? Okay, little mini lesson on articles, the use of the and are. So sometimes when we introduce a noun for the first time, let's say elephants, okay? Elephants is a noun, elephant is a concrete noun. We might introduce the paragraph and say elephants are big and gray. So no use of a definite article there. Then if we want to specify the elephants a little further, we can say the elephants of East Africa. Okay, so we're using it to specify. So we go from very broad, elephants, big and gray, the elephants of East Africa, etc. So what an article does there, Ashok, is provide specificity, or sometimes they do this, sometimes they don't, to be honest. They're crazy things. Usually they'll provide specificity to a noun. They really make it a bit more precise. Diana, when reading a year, do we say 2020 or 2020? What is acceptable? Either is acceptable. I would say 2020, but either. See how they train the little algorithm here is they pump through thousands, I don't know if it's thousands, a lot of people's responses, and they'll have either 2020 or 2020. Deborah, my speed tends to go faster until I'm out of breath. Just be mindful of that, Deborah, because you want to speak at a moderate pace, not too quickly, not too slowly. There was for a while some rumors going around on YouTube about how the more quickly that you spoke, the better your score would be. This is not true. That was a rumor. Seismic. Ronak had difficulty with that. Sophia, I don't know how to pronounce the word seismic. What should I do in the test day if there are new vocabulary? Good call. Fake it. Fake it. Maybe you said seismic. So be it. That's fine. You get slightly penalized. Better than skipping the word, and better than stumbling over it or stopping. Seismic activity. Cool. Okay. Amanda, how long are the pauses for? Well, we're talking sort of not long, like half a second pauses. Again, if you like at the dermatologist, if you got the microscope out and you look at spoken speech, the pauses are really quite short. What I recommend you do is listen to the model answers on e2language.com. They're good. They're top quality submissions, and they have sort of perfect pausing, etc. Right. So if you need help with fundamental skills, if you're struggling with pronunciation or grammar or anything like that, or you want to build your academic vocabulary, check out e2school.com. You can sign up for free, but these courses really are built for fundamental skill building for test day. All right, let's talk about repeat sentence. This is what it looks like on test day. This is the screen that you will see. What will happen is you're going to listen, you're going to hear a single sentence, then you're going to repeat that sentence back, okay? Then you click next and go to the next one. You'll get 10 to 12 on test day in a row. It's going to score you on speaking, and it's also going to contribute points to your listening score as well. And just like read aloud, you are scored on content, pronunciation, and oral fluency. Content means that you read all of the, you say all of the words in the correct sequence as they were said. Pronunciation is talking about the clarity of your consonants, consonant clusters, vowels, and word stress. And oral fluency, as we just saw before, refers to rhythm, pausing, connected speech, stress, sentence stress, meaning, and also intonation there. Okay, let's do a little bit of practice. So you're going to hear a sentence, listen carefully, then repeat it back in 3, 2, wait, let me turn it up. 3, 2, 1. You're joining a university with an established reputation. Okay. You're joining a university with an established reputation. That's the sentence that you should have said. Let's do another one. 3, 2, 1. Most higher education programs have a standard full-time load. One more time. Most higher education programs have a standard full-time load. Most higher education programs have a standard full-time load. Let's do one more. In 3, 2, 1. Our courses are led by education specialists with extensive practical knowledge. One more time. Our courses are led by education specialists with extensive practical knowledge. That one is particularly hard. I think it's the s sounds. I've forgotten that immediately. All right. Our courses are led by education specialists with extensive practical knowledge. Education specialists with extensive. Whoa, that one was tough. First one was pretty straightforward. Cool. So let's go back here and think for a second about methodology and approach to repeat sentence. So a lot of people consider this one to be a test of your memory, and it is, but only to a degree. It's a test of your working memory. That is the type of memory that is used when, say, for example, somebody gives you their phone number, and you have to just keep it in your mind for a little bit of time. It's that type of memory that just holds for really a few seconds, and then it starts to, like sand, it just starts to disappear. Ultimately, though, repeat sentence is a test of your vocabulary and grammatical, I want to say knowledge. It's not about knowing grammar, it's like knowing what a verb tense is. It's about your ability to use, how good you are at using vocab and grammar. Because you're not memorizing individual words here. You're memorizing phrases consisting of words, like a noun adjective phrase or a verb preposition phrase or etc., something like that. Okay. So yeah, ultimately this is a language skill and partially a working memory skill. Any questions about repeat sentence here? Da, 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 da. Okay, a few people are asking why it's not an university, because it's a y sound. Okay. Let's go back. This is a quirky one. Where's the word university? Okay, so here we say, usually we have an vowel, like an apple, right? An apple. Although this is a vowel, yes, you're correct. That's a vowel, and this is a vowel, which seems strange. What is the sound that this makes? It's a y sound, like a Y, in which case it's actually based on the sound, not the spelling. So it's a university, not an university. You're joining a is a consonant. So it's actually a university. Anyway, that's just a little bit of, a couple of people asked about that. It's a good question. Carrie, Jay, is it going to be really noisy in the exam room because everybody is speaking? I would find it hard to concentrate. It is a bit weird, Carrie, on test day. You're sort of sitting there and then someone will sort of start the speaking test and they're sort of doing their read alouds, and then the next person will start the reading test, etc. And then all of a sudden everyone's sort of doing it. I didn't find it problematic at all. It's like being on a noisy train, not even that noisy. It's like being on a train when people are speaking, right? And you're speaking to your friend. So you're really concentrating on your friend and interacting in that conversation. But there are people having conversations around you. So I didn't find it difficult to concentrate. I tell you what I did find difficult with concentration was at the end of the exam in the listening section is actually just maintaining mental exertion on the questions because you just run out of energy. Ruby, what if I say specialist and not specialists? Will it have negative scoring? You may lose a percentage of your score if you don't get the plural noun, etc. Okay, it's not going to be big at all, but you're going to lose a little bit of a mark there. Sophia, Jay, it's a bit off track. Why is it education specialists but not educational specialists? Wow. Okay. Here we're using education. Yes, that's a noun. Education is an abstract noun. Functioning is an adjective. This is the difference between educational specialist. It could be, you could use educational specialists. That would also be technically correct. This is one of those words where I can't think of another example, but often we just use the noun as the adjective there, education specialist. I'm just trying, I can't think of another example. Okay, let me give you another example. So really we've got two nouns here. Education is a noun and specialist is a noun, right? Think of this phrase here, car part. I had my car serviced yesterday, so I've got words about cars in my mind. A car part. I needed to buy a car part, right? Car is a noun. Now, what type of part was it? A car part. So it's the car is actually functioning as an adjective describing part here. And here we have specialist and education. The noun education is describing what type of specialist. I don't know if that was helpful or not. Simas, when we're listening to the sentence, Jay, do we need to mimic their accent? No, you don't need to mimic their accent. What you should be doing, though, is mimicking their delivery. So, for example, if they have rising intonation at the end of the sentence, like, did you get your car service yesterday? You should also be doing, did you get your car service yesterday? In whatever accent you have. So don't mimic accent, but mimic delivery. What I should say here is don't just say the sentence in a flat, monotone way. Again, read with meaning, speak with meaning rather. I forgot some of the words when I repeat the sentence. That's okay. It means you'll get partial marking. You'll get a percentage score. So let's say there are 10 sentences in the word. You forget 3 of them. You'll therefore get 70%. Guia says it's like a flea market at the testing centers. Deborah says, I'll just infer your question here, Deborah. Deborah says something about being anxious and her memory not working as well on test day. Yes. When we are too anxious, what happens is it sort of fogs or clouds our cognition. Cognition includes things like your working memory. So what you want to do there is, anxiety is a real thing, right? It can be really, really a real impediment on test day if it's too strong. Don't try to get rid of your anxiety. I really don't think that that works. You're going to have some level of anxiety on test day. And that's not a bad thing if you can leverage it to help you, okay? Because it will give you energy. Anxiety does give you energy. It happens for a reason, okay? You've got something, you've got an important event here, okay? So use it in your favor. Use the energy from that anxiety. If you're sitting there the whole time thinking, I wish I didn't have anxiety, that's not going to help. That's going to compound your anxiety. So just say to yourself, you know what? On test day, I'm going to be anxious and my heart's going to pound. My hands are going to sweat. I'm going to have all these weird sensations in my body that'll feel a bit uncomfortable. Really, that's the worst it gets. Anxiety just makes you feel uncomfortable. Sure, you might be uncomfortable for the first 30 minutes of this exam. So be it. Use it. You can do it. Let it give you the energy that you need. Jay, I'm a bit confused on connected speech. Can you clarify on connected speech? Like, what are you doing? It's a phrase, but we say what you're doing. Exactly, Ajit. So if I say to you, what are you up to on the weekend? What are you up to on what are you up to on the weekend? What are you up to on the weekend? That's an example of connected speech. Okay, so I'm blending my words together. You naturally do it anyway. The reason it happens is that you can't say, like, think about this, an apple. It's really difficult to say an apple. It's much easier to say an apple, an apple. It almost sounds like a napple. What's a napple? That's what we say when we speak. Can I have an apple? An apple? An apple? So it just happens naturally anyway. So I wouldn't think about it too much. I did want to raise your awareness of it, but I wouldn't go in there thinking I must use connected speech. I would go in there just going, okay, I'm just going to read this paragraph or say this sentence with as much meaning as possible. Melinda, hi Jay. On the actual test, will there be a little bit of time to prepare before repeating the sentence? Yes, you get about 3 seconds. So that the sentence is said, you're joining a university with an established reputation. 1, 2, beep. And then you have to say it. So I think you get sort of, 2 or 3 seconds. You will see visually when the recorder opens when it's time to speak, and you should start speaking almost immediately. Niharika, should I be writing something while listening to this sentence? No. Honestly, it will distract you from understanding the sentence. Understand the sentence, repeat it back. Gaia, anxiety could either help you ace the exam or fail you. Anxiety helped me with my last intake 2 years ago, taking my exam again on Friday because apprehension. Yeah. I like it. Deborah says, thank you, Jay. So be it. Anxiety. Exactly. Who cares? Whatever. You're going to feel uncomfortable. Let your stomach churn and your heart beat and your hands sweat. You've had worse things happen to you. It'll be fine. Sophia says, I'm really grateful for the podcast 15 that you had with the sports psychologist, Harlev DeVos. It was super helpful and informative. Oh, that's great. Yeah. So if you really are having problems with anxiety, I had a discussion with a sports psychologist about that topic. So you can find that on a podcast called E2 Talks. It's also on YouTube. All right, let's push on, or else we'll get stuck here. Okay, describe image. Here we go. So now you are not just reading a paragraph or repeating a sentence. For the first time, you're going to be speaking spontaneously, okay, using no real prompt apart from the visual image that you see in front of you. So this is what describe image looks like on test day. What you have to do is this. You'll have 25 seconds to analyze the image in front of you. Then when that 25 seconds is over, the recording device will open and you'll have up to 40 seconds to describe that image in front of you, whether it be a graph or a pie chart or whatever, bar charts, line graphs, tables, Venn diagrams, stuff like that. You'll get 6 or 7 of these on test day. Again, scoring content, PRON, oral fluency. Content means you're talking. Okay, you're not labeling the image. You're not saying there's a blue line, there's a red line, there's some black lines. I can see the word 250,000. This is not correct, and don't do this. What you're doing is describing the trends within the graph, okay? So you're talking about all podcasts. It was over 200,000 in 2015, but it started at just over about 10,000. In terms of active podcasts, this had less growth. In 2012, it was about 40,000, but then this grew to about 70,000 in 2015, something like that. Highest, lowest, that's what you want. And you want an intro and a single sentence conclusion. Pronunciation, we've talked about consonants, clusters, vowels, word stress. Fluency, sentence stress, connected speech, pausing, intonation, and rhythm. Here are the types of images you'll see on test day. Bar charts, line graphs, pie charts, mixed tables, processes, pyramids, Venns, and images. Okay, so lots of different ones. Bar chart, line graph, pie chart, stacked bar chart with a donut thing, like a mixed chart, table, process, pyramid, Venn diagram, image. Cool. So let's talk about structure. So use a bit of a memorized structure. Okay, this image, this bar chart, this Venn diagram, this pyramid represents or shows or illustrates, okay? Just have some sort of set opening sentence like this. This Venn diagram illustrates blah, 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 blah. Then you move into the body. Sorry, with the introduction, which we'll do a little bit more. The introduction is this image represents, and then there will be a title of the graph. What is the overall? Then with the body, you want to move into 3 key features. First key feature, second key feature, third key feature. Keep it simple. Whatever appears in your mind, you should say, okay? Don't try to get into the details of the graph because it's far too complex. You just want to mention, again, highest, lowest, something else. That's it. And then finish with a concluding sentence like overall or in conclusion, you can see that blah, blah, blah. Okay. So let's do the introductions first. This bar chart represents real household consumption from 1995 to 2004. Okay. What have I done there? I've just gone, this bar chart represents or illustrates the title by the lowest year to the highest year. And I could say in various countries. Or this line graph illustrates the amount of macronutrients people ate between 1909 and 2006, including fat, carbohydrate, and protein. That's my introduction. It's taken about 10 seconds. You do it. Okay, in 3, 2, 1, go. Very good. Nice. Let's do this one. In 3, 2, 1, go. So I would say these pie charts represent charitable contributions by cause in 1996 and 2016, including a variety of different charity types. Something like that. Okay, so we've had a look at introduction. Now let's look at the body. What I want you to do here is just talk about the 3 prominent key features that appear in your mind first. Let's just have a look at it. So it's household consumption, China's orange, India's green, developing Asia's lilac or purple, Pink is advanced Asia, Australia, and United States. So what's going on here? I would obviously talk about China having the highest amount of household consumption and this increasing between the 2 years. I would also talk about India increasing as well. And I would talk about the United States decreasing. Okay. Have a go at talking about the 3 key features for 20 seconds. Okay, nice. Let's do the same thing here. So 3 key features. So let's take a look at the squiggly line at the top. That's carbohydrates. So what happened to carbohydrates over this period? Well, they started at about 1400, they decreased, and then they increased quite substantially, something like that. What you might be careful of is getting too stuck in the y-axis here, 'cause sometimes it can be very overly complicated. What would you say about fat here? Steady gradual growth from 1909 to 1999. And protein, I would say it was relatively stable across the years with a slight bump in 1940. Okay, you're not going to be precise here. Anyway, your turn, 20 seconds. Cool. I'm going to skip this one because we're running out of time. It's already been 1 hour, I believe. And I have something on in 30 minutes. So let's keep going. Okay. So we looked at intro, we looked at body, and we kept it very simple. This is a real key because on test day, you're not going to be thinking as clearly as you would like. So you will just mention the first 3 things that pop into your mind. Then you want to finish with a concluding sentence like overall or in conclusion, we can see that blah, 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 blah. So give me a single sentence overall here, please. In 3, 2, 1, go. I would say something like, overall, we can see that China consumes the most household consumption, which doesn't make any sense, but that'll do. Or I would say, overall, we can see that most countries decrease the amount of consumption over the years. I don't even know if that's accurate, but accuracy, don't worry too much. Overall statement here, please, in 3, 2, 1, go. I would say something like, overall, we can see that carbohydrates are still the most popular macronutrient, or overall, we can see that there was a slight rise in all 3 macronutrients, something like that. And I'll skip that one. Okay, let's practice now. And we're going to do this one here. We're going to put it all together. You've got 25 seconds to prepare. Intro, body, conclusion. All right, how did you go with that? Hopefully you gave a blistering account of this terrific graph. Let's do the next one. All right. And we're going to skip this one. So let's go back. If you have any questions about describe image, how did you go putting all that together? Somebody asked, good question. Do we need to have a concluding sentence? According to the official score guide, it does say you need a conclusion. Now, what I assume that means is that it's going to be listening for an overall or in conclusion or one of those types of keywords, I think, something like that. So let's just do whatever the score guide asks us to do to maximize our scores. So try to put in a single sentence conclusion if you can. If you don't fit it in, you're getting to 38 seconds, don't attempt another sentence. Just stop there. Exactly. So Ashok has said sometimes if the image is complex and I'm at 35 seconds, do I need to worry about a conclusion? No. Good. Prajakta says, overall, this graph shows a good comparison between, exactly, that'll do. Shay says, disaster, complete blackout. No. That's why you're here. You can feel free to have disasters in the practice with E2 language. That's fine. Shweta, how long should we be speaking for, Jay? We have 40 seconds. Should we speak until the timer stops? No. You should be speaking until about 30, just before 40 seconds. Make sure you stop before 40 seconds. Varisha, do we need to explain in detail or just brush up the chart? No, really, there's not enough time to speak in detail about the fluctuations. And this point here, the carbohydrate intake was approximately 1,300 and no, there's just very broad, sweeping general statements about these graphs. Carrie, if you don't fit a conclusion in, don't worry about it. Sophia, I felt overwhelmed with the amount of information that I have to present, so I spoke quite quickly. I worried that my speed in this part. Okay, let me, if you don't mind, I'll try one. Let me go back here. Let me do this one here. Okay. All right, so I'll take you through my thought process. So I'm looking at this. I'm looking at the title, Macronutrient Intake from 1909 to 2006. Okay, I can see that there's 3 macronutrients. There's fat, there's carbohydrate, there's protein. So they all sort of went up. Carbohydrates sort of went down and then up. Fats sort of went up gradually and protein sort of went up. Okay, so here I go. This line graph represents macronutrient intake from 1909 to 2006, and it includes fat, carbohydrate, and protein. Carbohydrate was the most eaten macronutrient, and it was relatively stable across the time period with a slight increase towards the end. Fat had a gradual increase across the time. Protein, on the other hand, was relatively stable with some minor fluctuations. Overall, we can see that fat is less popular than carbohydrates in terms of macronutrients. Blah, whatever, that'll do. What's happening here is I'm trying to contain, like, I'm sort of going like, but I'm just keeping it as cool as possible. But it's a challenge. It's a real challenge, this thing, especially because you've got 25 seconds to understand a very complex graph and then 40 seconds to describe it. But again, you can't go into any detail here, just very broad general statements about the data, nothing in detail. Cool. Let's push on. Retell lecture. So this is what it looks like on test day. Okay, what's going to happen is you're going to look because you're going to see that little image. You'll have 10 seconds before the audio begins to play where you will hear a lecture or an interview that'll go between 45 and 90 seconds. Okay, so just a snippet of an academic monologue or dialogue. Then you'll have 40 seconds to retell what you just heard in your own words. You'll get 3 or 4 on test day. It contributes points to listening and speaking. You're scored on content, pronunciation, and oral fluency. I'll skip my ad. Let me go back. Content means that you have understood the lecture, and when you're retelling it, you're basically talking about it. But like describe image, you can't go into detail. And if you are slightly off topic, that doesn't matter. But as long as you're broadly talking about that topic. Pronunciation, we now know, and oral fluency, we now know. So let's divide this into two parts, pre-listening and while speaking. Pre-listening, listening and speaking. 3 parts. Pre-listening is you look at that image and some sort of representations will come to mind. Networks, social networks, computer systems. These are the sorts of words or phrases that come to my mind. So I'm generating sort of vocabulary or a schema of vocabulary in my mind. Then you've got listening. Lecture starts. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take notes while I listen. I have to take notes. Okay. You are given on test day a notebook. And while I'm listening, I'm going to be jotting down as many keywords as I possibly can. When you're thinking of keywords, you're thinking of nouns and verbs, critical nouns and verbs. Okay. Critical key concepts. And I'm going to be writing them down in note form. So not full sentences, just whatever scribble I can get down. My notes, this is very neat. My handwriting is absolutely terrible. It looks like this. Okay, that's what mine actually looks like. You get the point? So these are keywords taken from, here's the transcript from the lecture. So I've written down as many keywords as I can. Then I begin to speak. And I'm going to be using my notes and my memory and a particular structure, just like the describe image structure. I have a structure for retail lecture as well. That is, the speaker was discussing X, as in the topic, physics, chemistry, education, fashion, whatever it is. He mentioned keyword. He talked about keyword. He discussed keyword. He suggested that, or he concluded by saying keyword. Okay, this is my basic structure. I'm going to flesh it out. I'm going to make it more sophisticated. So I might say something like, let's say this lecture was about social networks. Okay, so you hear the lecture, and then I say, the speaker was discussing human social networks. He discussed their structures, why they form, and their patterns. He then talked about how networks function, and specifically, he talked about how they operate in workplaces. Blah, 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 blah. If you're a free member and you're watching this, I encourage you to take our PTE mini mock test. Why? Because it's really good. And why? Because it gives you lots of feedback on your performance, and feedback is critical for test day success. So our examiners who work at E2 Language will actually be marking your speaking and writing, 7 of them: read aloud, retell lecture, describe image, repeat sentence, answer short question actually as well. And then 3 writing ones: summarize written text, summarize spoken text, and write essay. You're going to get feedback on all of those, plus the others like reorder paragraphs, etc. All 20. It's very, very helpful. Let's practice retail lecture. I need a drink of water. I'm going to disappear. You're going to do use the structure that we just talked about. So 10 seconds to prepare, then listen. 10 seconds to look at the picture, then listen to the lecture, 10 seconds before you need to then speak for 40 seconds. So historians believe smallpox may have existed for about 12,000 years, but there's actually no scientific proof that the virus existed before the 17th century, which is just, a few hundred years ago. It's not known how it first infected humans, but like coronavirus, it's believed to have come from animals. So smallpox spread from person to person via infectious droplets. It killed around 1/3 of sufferers and left another 1/3 permanently scarred or blind. About 300 million people died from it in the 20th century alone, before it was officially eradicated in 1980 through a global vaccination effort. It was actually the first human disease to be wiped out, which is pretty amazing. Okay, so what's interesting is that we recently discovered new strains of smallpox in the teeth of Viking skeletons and found the disease's genetic structure to be quite different from the modern smallpox virus, which, as I mentioned, was eradicated in the 20th century. We already knew that Vikings were moving around Europe and beyond, and we now know that they had smallpox. People traveling around the world quickly spread coronavirus, and it's likely that Vikings spread smallpox. Just back then, they traveled by ship rather than by plane. All right. How did you go? This one's tricky. Pranil says, great. That's good. Well done. Sophia, I reckon you should take the mini mock test as soon as possible. Richard says, I got tongue-tied with virus and various. Just fake it. Pretend it never happened. Somebody says it's small fox or small, no, it's smallpox. That was about a disease. I think we've all had enough about hearing about diseases though. Okay, Neil says, what if I miss the topic or some keywords? It doesn't matter. What you need to do is you jot down as many keywords as you can. Maybe you'll understand the lecture, maybe you won't, okay? Whatever happens on test day, just fake it. Just pretend like you know what's going on, even if you have no idea what the lecture was about, which might happen. Fair enough. Good one, thank you. Good, Deborah. Deborah's completed the mini mock test and is now working on feedback. Good stuff. Deepa says, there's not much time. 40 seconds goes very quickly. That's right. It really does. It really races. So you don't need to fill it with too much information. You should be really focusing on the delivery of your speech. Okay, if you need additional help, like really in-depth targeted help, then you might think about our bronze, silver, or gold package, which come with tutorials, one-on-one tutorials. These are 45 minutes with a teacher, where the teacher will really be focusing in on your particular issues and helping you to overcome them before test day. Okay, let's do answer short question. This is what it looks like on test day. It looks very similar to repeat sentence, for example. If you read up here, it says you will hear a question. Please give a simple and short answer. One or few words will probably be appropriate. Instructions are very simple for this one because you're just answering a question. You listen and you answer. You're going to get 10 to 12 on test day. It's just going to contribute points to your vocabulary score, which contributes points to all of your scores, does it? I don't know the answer to that one, actually. I think definitely writing, definitely speaking, reading and listening, I'm not so sure. After you've answered, you click next and move to the next one. Okay, so the answer to the question will either be a noun, a verb, or an adjective. Okay, noun, verb, or adjective. So let's look at a question that elicits a noun as an answer. Listen carefully and answer this question, please, in 3, 2, 1. What do you call the people from whom you and your family descended? Okay. Let's listen one more time. Nice. Most people are getting it. Remember, you need to answer within 3 seconds. So when the sentence finishes, The microphone opens and you must start to speak within 3 seconds. That's quite a long time. Ready? 1, 2, 3. So you need to start speaking before that. One more time. Ready? 3, 2, 1.
What do you call the people from whom you and your family descended?
So the answer there would be, the question is, what do you call the people from whom you and your family descended? Ancestor or ancestors. There might be some other possible answers here. Relatives might be correct. Yep, relatives might be. Wow. Maybe that would be considered correct, but certainly ancestors would be correct. All right, now let's listen to a question where the answer will be a verb. In 3, 2, 1.
In the following sentence, which word refers to the past? Mark wrote his thesis on space travel.
Nice. Nice work. One more time.
In the following sentence, which word refers to the past? Mark wrote his thesis on space travel.
The answer there is wrote, is the verb that refers to the past. Not write or will write or is writing, it's wrote, past. Good. Adjectives. Okay, this time you're going to hear a question that will require an adjective as the answer. In 3, 2, 1.
What do you call a temporarily inactive volcano?
Come on, you can do it. Come on, what's it called? A temporarily inactive volcano. One more time. 3, 2, 1. Some funny words. Stagnant. No. Silent. No. Big mountains. No. Oh my God. One more time.
What do you call a temporarily inactive volcano?
Yay, Carlo got it right. My brain says Shay. Temporarily inactive. What is the word used, or what do you call a temporarily inactive volcano? Dormant. Dormant is the word there. So, so this task, answer short question, is eliciting the breadth of your vocabulary. It's testing you on how broad your vocabulary is. One of the questions that I remember from test day is, what do you call two lines that run side by side that never meet? Parallel is the word there, parallel. Cool. All right, I'm exhausted. I think I'll answer a few more questions. That's the end. Deborah, do I say dormant volcano or just dormant? You can just say dormant. That's fine. Carlos says Philippines is a ring of fire. Lots of volcanoes in the Philippines. Amanda says that was hard. Oh my God. Yeah, some of them will be hard. Some of them will be like, what? That's really easy. Deborah says okie dokie. Sophia, can I say inactive? Well, no. The answer there was dormant. Diana, if I don't know the answer, do I just say something? Yes, just have a guess. Just guess if you don't know. Just guess. All right, guys, I'm going to leave it there because I'm starting to lose my brain, my mind, and I need a cup of tea, and I have another meeting in 12 minutes. So got to run, but thank you for coming along. I hope it was helpful. If you are a free member, do think about upgrading your account to an Express or Express Plus package, which comes with the mini mock test. It unlocks all of the daily live classes taught by our expert teachers. You get heaps of practice material. all the latest methods lessons. There's lots and lots of good stuff on the platform to help you pass your PTE as soon as possible. Cheerio. Bye.